The Inquisitors, a faction rooted in the sinister core of the Galactic Empire, are often portrayed as relentless hunters of the Jedi, agents of terror, serving the will of Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. However, their portrayal as limited in power and scope often leaves much to be desired. But what if they were far more powerful? Imagine a galaxy where the Inquisitors were not merely the Emperor's enforcers but a fearsome, near-mythic force, wielding extraordinary influence, both in the Force and in the machinery of the Empire. The transformation of the Inquisitors into truly powerful figures would begin with their relationship to the Force itself. Rather than being shown as capable yet somewhat outclassed by trained Jedi, these Inquisitors would command a mastery of the dark side that rivals even some Sith Lords. Their training under Vader would be far more intensive and brutal, designed not only to hone their lightsaber skills and Force abilities, but also to cultivate an aura of invincibility and fear. Each Inquisitor would be a walking terror, a storm of raw dark side energy. Through meditation and rituals, they would access hidden aspects of the Force, abilities forbidden to all but the most daring practitioners, such as manipulation of memories, casting illusions so real they blur the line between reality and fantasy, or even temporarily severing a Jedi's connection to the Force. This elevated status would grant the Inquisitors a level of autonomy and respect within the Empire that they lack in traditional portrayals. Instead of being seen as a group of expendable hunters, they would be positioned as semi-independent governors, entrusted with significant territories to rule in the Emperor's name. Their influence would extend beyond hunting down Jedi to the subjugation of entire star systems, using their power to crush rebellion and ensure loyalty to the Empire. Their presence would evoke dread not only among dissidents but also within the Imperial ranks, as their authority would surpass that of regional governors and even many admirals. The Inquisitors' enhanced power would necessitate a transformation in their modus operandi. Rather than simply relying on brute force and intimidation, they would employ strategies steeped in psychological warfare and manipulation. A powerful Inquisitor might infiltrate the political elite of a planet, posing as an ally or benefactor before gradually revealing their true intentions. By the time their identity as an agent of the Empire is revealed, it would be too late. The planet's leaders would be compromised, its defenses sabotaged, and its population already teetering on the brink of submission. Entire planetary systems would crumble under the weight of their schemes, leaving no need for costly military campaigns. In this alternate scenario, the Inquisitors' rivalry with the Jedi would take on a more chilling tone. Each encounter with an Inquisitor would be a battle against an adversary who is not just a skilled warrior but also a master manipulator. They would know the weaknesses of their prey, exploiting emotional wounds and moral dilemmas to break the will of their opponents. A Jedi facing such an Inquisitor would not only have to fight for survival but also guard against the insidious erosion of their own principles, as the Inquisitors' words and actions subtly tempt them toward the dark side. On Coruscant, the seat of the Empire's power, the Inquisitors would hold court as both enforcers of Imperial law and keepers of the Emperor's most esoteric secrets. Their sanctum, hidden beneath the sprawling cityscape, would be a labyrinth of dark halls and chambers, filled with arcane artifacts and ancient tomes. Here, they would commune with the dark side, receiving visions of potential threats to the Empire and crafting elaborate plans to neutralize them. This lair would be as much a symbol of their power as their lightsabers, a place where even Vader himself might tread cautiously. Their fearsome reputation would extend beyond the known galaxy. Tales of their exploits would reach even the farthest corners of the Outer Rim, spreading like wildfire among smugglers, rebels, and fringe societies. To encounter an Inquisitor would be to face a living nightmare, a foe whose mere presence could sap hope from the bravest heart. The Rebel Alliance would be hard-pressed to rally support in the face of such an overwhelming force, as each new ally would risk becoming a target for an Inquisitor's wrath. Yet, this power would also come at a cost. The Inquisitors, being so deeply immersed in the dark side, would find themselves increasingly isolated and paranoid. Their immense power would make them as much a threat to each other as to the enemies of the Empire. Intrigue and betrayal would run rampant within their ranks, as each Inquisitor vies for dominance, eager to prove themselves indispensable to the Emperor or to supplant their rivals. Their infighting would be a dangerous game, as failure often means death, but success would mean even greater power and prestige. The Emperor, ever the master manipulator, would use this internal strife to his advantage, ensuring that no single Inquisitor grew too powerful to challenge his rule or Vader's authority. By pitting them against one another, he would keep their ambitions in check, even as he reaped the benefits of their extraordinary abilities. Meanwhile, Vader's role as their leader would take on a more nuanced dynamic. Rather than merely training and commanding them, he would serve as both a mentor and a rival, constantly testing their loyalty and punishing any sign of insubordination. This tension would add another layer of complexity to the Inquisitor's relationship with the Sith, blurring the lines between servitude and rebellion. Ultimately, the existence of such powerful Inquisitors would reshape the galaxy's perception of the Force itself. The dark side would no longer be seen as the domain of a select few Sith Lords, but as a pervasive, ever-present force, wielded by an elite cadre of warriors whose influence rivals that of the Jedi at their peak. This shift would create a galaxy teetering on the edge of despair, where the flicker of hope represented by the Rebel Alliance burns dimly against the overwhelming shadow of the Empire's might. Such a reimagining of the Inquisitors would transform them into more than mere agents of destruction. They would become architects of a galaxy-spanning tyranny, wielding their power not just to enforce the Emperor's will but to shape the very fabric of the galaxy in his image. Their rise would herald an era of unprecedented darkness, where every act of rebellion comes at an unimaginable cost, and the dream of freedom seems forever out of reach. It would be a galaxy where the Inquisitor's power is both a symbol of the Empire's strength and a testament to the unyielding grip of the dark side. This vision of the Inquisitors as truly powerful beings would also radically redefine the dynamics of the galaxy's power struggles. In this alternate scenario, the Rebel Alliance would face challenges not only from the Imperial military and Darth Vader, but from an array of Inquisitors who operate with lethal efficiency and unmatched strategic brilliance. Each encounter would be a life-and-death chess match, with the Inquisitors anticipating the Alliance's moves and countering them with devastating precision. The mere presence of an Inquisitor would be enough to disrupt Rebel plans, as their mastery of the Force would allow them to detect hidden threats and manipulate the course of events in their favor. For example, they could use their Force abilities to uncover the locations of hidden Rebel bases, sabotage critical supply lines, or turn key members of the Alliance against their comrades. Their psychological tactics would sow distrust and paranoia within Rebel ranks, weakening their resolve and making unity almost impossible. On the battlefield, these Inquisitors would be living weapons of destruction. Imagine a strike force led by an Inquisitor descending on a Rebel stronghold, their presence alone causing soldiers to falter in terror. Their lightsabers would carve through enemy ranks with surgical precision, while their Force powers allow them to manipulate the environment to devastating effect. Walls would crumble, blaster bolts would be redirected, and vehicles would be rendered useless under their gaze. Each encounter would be a stark reminder of the sheer power imbalance between the Rebels and the Empire. This new reality would force the Rebel Alliance to adapt in ways never seen before. Traditional guerrilla tactics and acts of sabotage would no longer suffice. They would need to develop new strategies capable of countering the Inquisitors' overwhelming might. This might involve the creation of specialized strike teams trained specifically to deal with force-wielding adversaries or the development of experimental technology designed to neutralize their abilities. These efforts, while potentially effective, would come at great cost, further straining the already limited resources of the Alliance. Jedi survivors would face a grim future in such a galaxy. Whereas the original Inquisitors already posed a significant threat, these enhanced versions would represent an almost insurmountable challenge. For every Jedi, their fight against the Empire would become not only a battle of survival but also a deeply personal struggle against adversaries who embody everything they stand against. The Inquisitors' mastery of the dark side would allow them to prey on a Jedi's deepest fears and insecurities, twisting the very foundations of their beliefs. Many Jedi, unable to withstand such relentless psychological and physical assaults, might succumb to the dark side themselves or choose to go into hiding indefinitely. The pursuit of a single Jedi would become a high-stakes saga, with the Inquisitor tracking their target across multiple systems, laying traps and orchestrating events to force them out of hiding. These hunts would be drawn-out, complex games of cat and mouse, with the Inquisitor always seeming to be one step ahead. Even when outmatched or outnumbered, their sheer cunning and resourcefulness would make them a nearly unstoppable force. Within the Empire itself, the power of the Inquisitors would inspire both awe and resentment. High-ranking officials who once relied on the might of the Imperial Navy or the favor of the Emperor to assert their dominance would now find themselves overshadowed by the Inquisitors' influence. Fear of being deemed disloyal or simply inconvenient by an Inquisitor would keep many ambitious officers in check, ensuring that the Empire's hierarchy remains firmly under the control of Palpatine's most trusted enforcers. However, this dynamic would also breed resentment, with factions within the Imperial bureaucracy quietly conspiring to diminish the Inquisitor's authority, though few would dare to act on such plans openly. Among the galaxy's ordinary citizens, the Inquisitors would become a symbol of ultimate authority and oppression. Their actions would not be limited to the pursuit of Jedi or the suppression of rebellion. They would also play a role in shaping the cultural narrative of the Empire. Propaganda would elevate them to near-mythic status, portraying them as the Empire's guardians against chaos and disorder. In public, their appearances would be rare but unforgettable, their mere presence serving as a reminder of the Empire's omnipresence and absolute power. Whole populations would live in fear of drawing their attention, knowing that even the smallest hint of dissent could bring an Inquisitor to their doorstep. This pervasive fear would also lead to widespread compliance and self-policing among Imperial citizens. Communities would turn against one another, with individuals reporting their neighbors out of fear that silence might be interpreted as complicity. The Inquisitors, in this way, would not need to act as enforcers at all times. The mere threat of their intervention would be enough to maintain order across vast swathes of the galaxy. Despite their overwhelming power, the Inquisitors' existence would not be without its vulnerabilities. The immense pressure placed upon them by both their duties and their constant immersion in the dark side would take a toll. Many Inquisitors would find themselves consumed by paranoia, haunted by the fear that their rivals or even their masters might one day turn against them. This psychological strain would lead to infighting and betrayal within their ranks, as well as occasional lapses in judgment that could be exploited by their enemies. Furthermore, their enhanced abilities and heightened status would make them prime targets for the rebels and other factions opposing the Empire. The downfall of a single Inquisitor would be a significant victory, both strategically and symbolically, as it would prove that even the Empire's most formidable agents are not invincible. Such victories, while rare, would serve as rallying points for those fighting against the Empire, providing a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak galaxy. In this reimagined galaxy, the Inquisitor's power would reshape every aspect of the Star Wars universe, creating a narrative filled with higher stakes, greater challenges, and more profound struggles. The Rebel Alliance, the Jedi, and even the ordinary citizens of the galaxy would be forced to confront a force of oppression that is as relentless as it is terrifying. Yet, in the face of such overwhelming darkness, the flicker of hope that defines the Star Wars saga would shine all the brighter, a testament to the resilience of those who refuse to bow to tyranny. This transformation of the Inquisitors into figures of immense power and influence would elevate them from secondary antagonists to central players in the galaxy's story, their actions and decisions shaping the fate of countless lives. Their rise would be a chilling reminder of the cost of complacency and the dangers of unchecked power, serving as both a warning and a challenge to those who dare to stand against them. The galaxy, under their watchful eyes, would become a darker, more dangerous place, a stage for epic battles and profound acts of courage, where the line between heroism and despair is razor-thin. In a galaxy where the Inquisitors are elevated to unparalleled levels of power, even Darth Vader would find himself tested in ways that challenge his dominance and loyalty to the Emperor. These Inquisitors, empowered with immense force abilities, political influence, and an insatiable drive for power, would inevitably push Vader into a position where his role as their leader and enforcer is constantly under scrutiny. Vader, a towering figure of fear and authority within the Empire, would no longer stand unchallenged among his subordinates. The Inquisitors' enhanced skills and rising ambition would create a volatile dynamic within the Imperial hierarchy. While they would remain officially subordinate to Vader, their burgeoning strength and the favor of Emperor Palpatine would embolden some to test the limits of their obedience. For Vader, This would mean navigating a delicate balance between maintaining control and quashing dissent without alienating the Emperor's prized agents. This challenge would manifest in several ways. On one hand, Vader's position as the Sith apprentice grants him the authority to discipline the Inquisitors harshly for failure or insubordination. On the other, the Emperor's deliberate strategy of pitting his followers against one another would mean that Vader cannot act too forcefully without risking Palpatine's disapproval. The Emperor's machinations would exacerbate tensions, fostering a constant undercurrent of rivalry and suspicion. Vader's role as a teacher and overseer of the Inquisitors would also take on new complexity. Their sheer power and the advanced training they receive would make them less pliable and more resistant to Vader's influence. Many Inquisitors might resent Vader's authority, seeing themselves as equals or even potential rivals, particularly if they interpret the Emperor's favor as a sign of their growing importance. This would force Vader to engage with the Inquisitors on both physical and psychological levels, asserting his dominance not just through displays of strength but also through manipulation and fear. Each confrontation would be a high-stakes test of his ability to command their loyalty and submission. Furthermore, the increased power of the Inquisitors would present Vader with more immediate personal threats. Inquisitors who are deeply steeped in the dark side would naturally be drawn to its corrupting allure of ambition. Some might seek to supplant Vader as the Emperor's apprentice, believing that their mastery of the Force and their cunning strategies make them worthy successors. These challenges would lead to direct confrontations, where Vader must prove his superiority not just to the Inquisitors themselves but also to the Emperor, who would watch these struggles with calculated interest. These trials would also expose Vader's vulnerabilities. While his mastery of the dark side and his formidable combat skills are unparalleled, the constant pressure of managing a cadre of powerful and ambitious subordinates would take a toll. His reliance on fear and brute strength to maintain control might prove insufficient against Inquisitors who have learned to exploit his weaknesses, whether it be the lingering humanity within him or the physical limitations imposed by his cybernetic body. These moments would force Vader to confront his own insecurities and the precariousness of his position within the Empire. At the same time, the Inquisitor's growing power would serve as a mirror, reflecting Vader's own struggles with the dark side. Watching his subordinates wrestle with their ambition and corruption might force Vader to reevaluate his own path. Would he see their failures and betrayals as cautionary tales? Or would he view their hunger for power as a challenge to redouble his own commitment to the dark side? This internal conflict would deepen Vader's character, adding layers of complexity to his relationship with the Emperor, the Inquisitors, and even himself. The Emperor, as ever, would play both sides, ensuring that neither Vader nor the Inquisitors gained too much power. Palpatine would likely relish watching Vader being tested, viewing it as an opportunity to ensure his apprentice remains sharp and focused. For Vader, this would mean constantly proving his worth, not just by defeating the Empire's enemies but also by managing the ever-present threat of the Inquisitors. Every victory would come at a cost, and every failure would carry the risk of losing the Emperor's favor. Ultimately, the rise of such powerful Inquisitors would force Vader to evolve. He would no longer be able to rely solely on his immense strength and fearsome reputation. Instead, he would need to adapt to a new reality where his authority is challenged on all fronts. These trials would either cement his place as the Emperor's most formidable servant or expose the cracks in his armor, setting the stage for the galaxy's balance of power to shift in unexpected ways.